there, this is Stephanie, and today I want to share this card I created for a blog name Hero. I have decided to go with the challenge this month for Dust Off Your Stamps and chosen this clock set. It's not particularly old, but I've never used it yet, and I've been meaning to create a card with it, so figured I would start with that. And I've also decided to make some parts of my card move a little bit. So I'm going to use this little quick cuts die here that I've had for years that has clock hands and put those onto the clock with a brad so that they can actually spin around. And I'm going to use one of these new action wobbles to put under the main clock with the moving hands for the focal point of my card. So to get started, I've decided to use a couple of Echo Park paper pads as well as the Hero Arts Mocha note card for my card base. So I chose this and that, the masculine version of it, because I really like the colors, and I find that the stamp set tends to lean on the masculine side, so it's really great to use it for the men in your life when you want to create cards. So what I'm going to do actually is use the smaller clock first and clear emboss a couple of those clocks onto this green pattern paper. You can't really see the pattern too well in the video, but it has like a grid type pattern to it. So I'm going to use my Versamark here and clear emboss. I think 2 of these clocks is what we're going to go with. And I'm going to kind of stagger them on a diagonal and then use the big clock up right in that piece there. So I'm just kind of using that clear piece to just determine where I want to put these smaller clocks. So now that I have both of these stamped with my Versamark, I'm just going to get my clear embossing powder and sprinkle some of that on there and heat emboss those so that they are fully heat embossed. I like to keep my embossing powder in this container here. It makes it a lot easier for cleanup. You can just put it right back into the container and no mess at all. And I'm using my favorite heat gun here, the Milwaukee heat gun. You can get it from Hero Arts. Heats up really, really fast and gets really hot and works awesome. So highly recommend it if you are in the need of a heat gun. But it does get super hot, so be very careful with it. So now I have both of my clocks are heat embossed, and I've assembled the card pieces to the front of the card base there, and now I'm going to work on my focal piece clock. So for this one, I'm actually just going to stamp it with VersaFine Black Onyx ink, and I'm not going to do any embossing on it, just because I don't know if the embossing will affect how well the hands turn around on the clock, since they'll just be out of the Hero Arts Mocha note card as well. So I've just decided to use some black stamping ink. So I'm just stamping that on one of the beige papers from the Echo Park pad, and then I'm going to actually just cut that right out, right along the edge of the clock outline with my scissors. I always like to cut it out roughly first before so I have a smaller piece to work with so that I can rotate it easier around my scissors. And then once I have this clock here cut out, I'm going to take the Mocha note card color that I used for the base to make the hands. I normally would have used layering paper, but I didn't have any, so I'm just using another Hero Arts note card, and I'll just cut a couple of these out and then save the rest of it for a future project. So I just cut both of those out, and then I'm just using my scissors to pop out the middles because they actually cut out little circles in the middles there. And then I'm going to use my Tim Holtz craft pick to put a hole into the center of the clock, and when I poke it in there, I'm actually just going to move it around in a circle so that it makes a pretty big hole. So now there you can see my clock. I've already assembled the 2 hands into the middle of it there and attached my brad, and now I'm just figuring out where I want to place it, and I'm going to put the action wobble spring on the back. If you can see there's kind of like a little hole where that spring is, and that's actually going to work out perfect because that's the side that goes against the back of the clock. And that little hole there in the middle is going to allow space for my brad to sit in so that it can still freely turn, so that the hands can still turn. So that worked out perfect. Otherwise, if it was a flat piece of adhesive, it would stop those hands from turning as well. So once you've done that, you just want to remove the backing off of the back piece of the wobble, and then you can attach it to your card. And they have a pretty big base around them. I've used these wobbles on other projects that are a little bit smaller, and I have just cut them down a little bit, but for this one it worked out to use it at full size. And the adhesive on these is super strong, so you definitely don't ever have to worry about the piece moving off of your card at all once you've attached it. So you just figure out where you want to place that. Make sure your clock is the right way, because I almost put it on upside down at one point. So just go ahead and figure out where you want it, and then just push down on it, and it will attach perfectly right to the front of the card. And then you can see what these action wobbles do when they are attached. If you can see there, they not only does it elevate it right off of the card, but you can do this little fun twisty thing there where it just kind of does all kinds of movement there. So super fun interactive card, just to give it a little bit something more fun. Now once we've got that all assembled there, we need to put on our sentiment. So I've decided to use a banner that I've die cut from the My Favorite Things fishtail banner dies. There's a stack set. I think there's like 6 of them. Awesome set, and great for sentiments because you can get them. There's varying widths of the different banners, so it's a really great set. So I'm just going to use the same VersaFine Onyx black ink that I used to do the clock base to stamp my sentiment here on this banner. And then once I get this stamped on there, I'm going to have to cut some of that banner off because it's a little bit too long. I really thought this was a fun sentiment, thinking about you around the clock, just because obviously there's clocks, but just the fun factor of the one moving around and stuff, and how it can spring kind of circular with that wobble on there. So I'm just going to cut this down to size, and then I can adhere this onto the card. I was originally going to put some dimensional adhesive on the back of this and then decided against it. I just thought it would be a lot better to put it flat because I want the focal point of this card to really be on the clock and the action wobble that it's on. So I decided just to go right flat against the card there. You just want to line that up and make sure it's straight, and then push that right down. And then just for one final added touch, I decided to put a small staple in the end of the banner there with my Tim Holtz Tiny Attacher. I like to do that. It just kind of makes it look like it was adhered by stapling it on, and it just adds to that masculine feel on the page, I think. So I'm just going to add that little staple there, and then the card is complete. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next month with another fun challenge on A Blog Name Hero.